Hey, welcome to a new video. Today I'm out in the E46 M3. After that little ride I had the day I picked it up, it's time to really dive deep into all the things that make this car so special and kind of really understand what the baseline that we're starting from is all about. And to do that, I thought I'd come out on the Shuto. Kind of went to Tatsumi parking area to start things off. Unfortunately, it was completely full of people parking over and having a bit of lunch. And we're now here at Hakozaki. It's really strange being here during the daytime. This is, our usual night spots that we come to shoot and drive. But again, today is a day of, I guess, studying, like really understanding what it is that makes this platform, the E46, so special. We're going to be breaking it down between engine, transmission, handling, and just braking, and just really trying to figure out the areas that make up this car and the things that potentially I will start to look at for upgrades. And we're going to be taking the car out on the C1, do a couple of loops to get a feel for the steering, the handling, and just slightly higher speed stuff than I did the other day. And then we'll hit up a couple of places to stop and kind of gather thoughts about what I have actually come to understand about the car. So gonna jump in and head out on the C1. All right, so here we are, just about to leave Hakozaki parking area. I think I'm gonna try and break things down, like I mentioned, starting off with the engine, just to really understand what it's all about, because since I drove the car, I'm beginning to change opinion on a few things. And I guess I have began to really understand, what the engine is all about. The straight 6 3.2 is very, very special. I think when BMW developed this engine, they really knew exactly how they were going to lay out the torque, the response of the engine, of course, the peak power. It is so beautifully balanced and such a great platform. I guess baseline motor to start from. I mean, it is NA. You're not going to be doing, much to it to, kind of gain insane amounts of power. It's not a turbo engine, so it's all about refinement. And like I mentioned, even in the first video, it's finally kind of refreshing to start thinking about modifying an NA car, because we've been getting kind of spoiled over the last few years when it comes to having turbos pretty much on every single production car these days. And adding 100 horsepower is almost like the norm now with the reflash of the ECU. So I'm gonna be very excited to really finesse what this engine is all about, starting off with the sound. I think the sound is really, half the experience of this car. Once you start getting into the mid-range and it starts singing, and that raspiness really turns into like a really metallic song. I mean, it really is a musical instrument of an engine, and it gets pretty powerful up top. I mean, there's a lot of power on this thing. It's not as heavy as modern cars. There's a good 200-300 kilos less of what you kind of expect to find on a modern day coupe, like an M4 G Series M4, and a lot lighter than the M4 I have, which is a convertible, which always ends up being a little bit heavier due to all the reinforcements that need to be added into the chassis to keep the flex as low as possible, and of course the folding mechanism for the roof. So we're starting off with a more simple car, a simpler car, a car that's a little bit lighter, a car that is more refined in that respect, because there's not much there. There's very simple layout. You don't need to worry about all the electronics kind of getting in the way of like refining things. And so back to the engine, basically. Definitely will do the intake. I've been kind of looking out there, and there are some amazing companies that do really high quality work. As somebody pointed out in the previous video in the comments, thank you for chiming in, by the way. I really, really appreciate all the feedback that's come through that first initial kind of unveil video. There are companies that allow you to fit a CSL looking airbox intake without having to do the MAF to kind of map sensor conversion. So it's going to be able to authentic sound without complicating things too much. Then of course the exhaust, I know exactly what I'm going to do there. It's going to be some kind of configuration of the Sunbeam exhaust series that they do. You know, Fukuda-san at Sunbeam is an awesome guy. He said basically you can come here and try a combination of what you think will work and see if you enjoy it. Fukuda-san at Sunbeam told me that basically their exhaust system for track usage is a bit extreme. It does get pretty loud, not really something you want to use on track. But then again, maybe there are some configurations there that we can try. So getting that on point is going to be pretty much the refinements that I will stick to. Just getting the best out of the intake and the exhaust, making this engine really sing. Again, you know, you're starting with an engine that's almost perfection when it comes to that. So just adding that little 10-15% more, and it's not really a kind of pursuit of power per se, but more adding to the whole feel of the car. I think the experience you get from the engine singing is really what makes the E46 quite so special. So the point of today is also to hit up some nice locations in Tokyo. I dropped by Tsukiji here, the old fish market. It's always a nice spot to kind of get these really old looking Showa era backdrops. Unfortunately, they're slowly tearing down every little kind of block here. The actual main fish market has moved to the new location across a few man-made islands. So while it lasts, it's always good to drop by, put the car here and get some really nice shots against a backdrop that will soon disappear. So one big part of getting the E46 really dialed in is going to be an exhaust system. But you know, like I mentioned, I'm quite surprised the stock one sounds so good. Really allows that raspy straight 6 NA sound to come through. And of course, when you start changing stuff like the manifold, you can see it here. You can see how there's a massive heat shielding on the exhaust manifold side. Once you start fiddling around with this and going for a full exhaust system, then the motor really does start to sing. And right here next to the motor, right behind the suspension tire, is a plasma ground, a little module that I guess makes the car not completely stock. It's one of those grounding units that gets kind of laid out across the engine bay here and the other areas of the car to ground everything properly. It's like a mod from like 20 years ago. I'm not even sure they make any difference. We'll see if we end up keeping this or getting rid of it. Alright, next up it's the transmission, and I think it's the part of the car that's really causing a lot of confusion for me. So initially when I got to pick up the car and kind of do that, you know, first drive of what, 20-30 minutes or just under an hour, I didn't really like it too much. It felt dated, it felt slow, it felt like a barrier from, you know, that stops you really enjoying what this car is all about. And to some extent, when you're driving at 1010s, you know, you really do want a manual transmission, and it does come kind of in the way of you extracting the most satisfaction out of it. So yes, it is something that I still believe feels dated, but at the same time it's been growing on me. I'm kind of really understanding what BMW was going for when they developed this gearbox, and it is a really good product in the way that, you know, when you really put it in its automatic mode and you slow down the transmission shifts and you just want to cruise, it really works well. It's like literally any person driving smoothly, taking their time to shift up and down, and you know, a nice smooth release of the clutch pedal. So it does that really well. It's when you start speeding up that, you know, you do get that kind of clutch drop and the jerkiness between the shifts. That said though, I've noticed that if you really time it well and you back off with your foot, you can really smooth that out, and it's not that bad. Like, you can really do have a lot of fun with it, but at the same time, in the back of your head, it's always like, you know, if it's a manual, it would feel so much more natural, so much better. for the time being, I think I'm gonna allow this transmission to sort of continue to grow me, because the more I drive it, the more it just feels okay. And you know, I've been actually talking to some people that do own E46s with the SMG2 transmission, and you know, they have valid arguments for it. It does make sense. It doesn't really take away from the car that much once you get used to it. And of course, it seems to be like everybody does the CSL flash on the software, so that it gets a little bit faster, more aggressive shifts. So that's something that Sunbeam is going to be doing on the car. It's probably the first mod that we do, actually, to kind of see if there's any improvement. And you know, it makes more of an argument to keep it, because while I did mention in the first video that it is straightforward to do a manual swap, it is pretty pricey. I mean, you are getting some older parts, and there are a lot of parts involved, not to mention the actual work necessary to fit everything. It's going to take like 2 to 3 days of work with, you know, a certified mechanic that knows what he's doing. Luckily, I have Sunbeam that have done these multiple times and have all the parts in stock. So I think I'll put that in kind of like the back burner and just allow the car to grow on me a little bit more. Hopefully the CSL flash will help on that side of things. And then we move to the Ashimawari area, and that's a great word in Japanese which really summarizes everything to do with handling, braking, and tire, like grip. So anything to do with wheels and suspension and braking. So when it comes to the actual brakes, they are good, they are easy to modulate, they're very progressive, great feedback. But when it comes to looks, just slide type calipers front and back. BMW has never really been one to really equip their cars with massive brake packages, maybe on the later cars now, like the new M4s and M5s. But that's something I really want to touch on with this car. Once we get the right selection of wheels on point, I'm definitely going to be doing a brake package and kind of researching out there what the best, most balanced setup is be. And you know, with that said, if you do have advice, if you want to kind of give me feedback on that, I'll check out all the comments when it comes to the braking too. And I can already tell with the OEM, kind of tired OEM suspension and dampers, the chassis is the clear winner here. I mean, it really does feel amazing through the turns. I haven't gone full crazy yet. I should probably take it down to Hakone. But I think, you know, going for a nice suspension setup is really, I guess, step 2 for this car. And finding out what that chassis is able to achieve when it's set up with modern day suspension, because like I touched on before, you know, we're very lucky to live in 2026 right now, where the industry is really responding to the love that people have for these older iconic chassis, and the E46 is very much up there when it comes to that. There are so many parts available for these cars, and you know, we're talking about a car that was on sale 20 plus years ago, 25. So you can imagine what you're able to extract from a platform like this with the technology from you know, today. So suspension, definitely stage 2 when it comes to tuning, and then to kind of add on top of that will be the wheel and tire package. So for the wheels, I'm not really sure here. I do love the kind of tried and tested BBS Motorsport look. It's a look that I've always loved. I've never been able to run it. Actually, wait, I take that back. I had BBS E88s, the Motorsport E88s, on the R34 GTR in 2018 when the car was at the Hashimoto Corporation booth. It was a collaboration with Brembo and BBS Motorsport. So it sat for the entire weekend on these beautiful E88s, and I loved the look. And I told myself, yeah, I had to give them back, by the way. I told myself eventually I will have a car that will run the E88s, and I think it just fits in. However, we are in Japan. I've been covering the JDM scene for over 20 years. So for me to have a JDM feel on a German car has always been very special to me. I've done that with the RWB 964. I've done that with the G83 M4 convertible, and maybe I think I will definitely end up having 2 sets of wheels, and you know, it would have to be race to E37s for the second set. I just love how the wheel works so well on an E46, and it does allow one thing that's going to be pretty much I guess step 4 or 5 of the whole conversion of this car, and that would be the brake package. The brakes on this car are very good. They're very well set up. The modulation and progression of the middle pedal is really on point. You know, it's something that BMW really does well when it comes to brakes. That said, they are never, you know, track proof. They have great feeling brakes, but they will fade, and they're just usually underpowered for when you start modifying cars. So I think finding a brake package that works and obviously fits under the E88s and potentially the T37s, if I go down that road of having both sets of wheel, is definitely something I want to think about. It has to be a very balanced setup. It has to be something that's been used in the E46 community and people really love. I'm not going to try and come up with something new and kind of like waste time over that. I want something reliable from the get-go, something that you know, adds that extra feel of safety and reassurance when you have a nice brake package in a car. So lots and lots to think about. And again, you know, along with the wheels will be the tire choice. I think that will add to the whole thing of adding modern parts to an older chassis. The technology when it comes to like the mix of rubber out in today's market will totally transform the way this car feels. I mean, the Bridgestone Potenza 007As that are on the car right now are pretty modern tires. They're actually from 2022. I checked the actual date stamped on the sidewall. So they are pretty modern tires. They're very grippy. They do break away a little bit earlier than I was expecting. But you know, if you add the tires that I'm used to running on my cars, you know, it will definitely transform the car. You'll be able to push more. It won't have that instant breakaway that E46 is kind of known for once you start getting on power. They're very lively cars, and I'm more than willing to explore that. I definitely want to take the car up to Ibisu circuit, start doing you know, Kuru land, and really find out what the handling is all about, when and it breaks away, and really understanding what the chassis does on the limit. I think it's important for anybody, you know, kind of starting on a new car project, is to always really make sure you understand the capabilities of what you're working with, and you know, how every change that you do changes that. Even in my Speed Hunters years, you know, every project that I've ever done has always been incremental changes, and then going back and really understanding what those changes do. You know, adding the modern parts to a car, and then really having that instant feedback come through the steering wheel and you know, the seat of your pants, really adds to building a project car and the satisfaction behind it all. I mean, it's almost a drug for me to, you know, spend a little time researching, finding out the part, the joy of fitting it, you know, something that really looks nice but then also has a positive impact on the way the car performs and feels and handles. It literally is what the love of cars is all about. It's you know, being able to perfect in your own way with the right choices and just getting that satisfaction out of it all.
And like I was mentioning before, the suspension side of things is definitely going to be the most important part when it comes to really nailing what the E46 is going to be all about. And you know, the results that we're going to try and get with this car to really extract the most performance, the most handling, finesse and satisfaction out of the chassis that has, you know, 25 years under its belt. But using modern parts, extract modern day type of grip and performance.
Listen to that straight six, insane, and you can just hear it even at 3,000 3,000 RPM in 5th gear, all the way up to 4.5. It sings. One thing I've been kind of surprised of is the fact that if in sport mode and you're, the most aggressive setting and you're hard on the brakes trying to downshift, it won't rev match for you. So I looked this up online, and apparently it only does that when your foot is still kind of hovering or touching the actual accelerator pedal. So it's good when you're kind of like slowing down up a hill where no brakes are necessary, so you do that shift and it rev matches for you. But if you're under braking, you literally have to do left foot braking and keep the right foot on the accelerator. I don't know, it feels a bit strange for me that they would have done that, because I think under braking it's the most important time to actually be smoothly rev matching, so you don't upset the balance of the car under braking. So something to get used to, something that still catches me out. And then of course we have the shifts. I mean, it's fun when it's up in the rev range. It really does, keep it raspy and fun and really fast with the changes. And then, yeah, if you just hover over the throttle, it will rev match. Unfortunately, I've caught up to traffic. One thing I've noticed driving the E46 is that when I start really pushing hard, I stop using paddles. I just automatically go with the shifter. Kind of, I don't know, it feels like a natural approach to doing this. The paddles come in handy when you're kind of like, using your hands for something else, maybe you're picking up a drink and drinking it. But when you're really concentrating on a proper drive, it just makes sense to have that shifter there in the center console and being able to reach down and kind of pretend that it's an actual sequential in a race car. But yeah, the way it doesn't rev match on the braking is puzzling to me. If you guys have any kind of light to why BMW would have done this, please share that with me. I'm very curious to find out why they would have done that. But I have been using my left foot for braking just to have the car properly downshift for me, just like now. That's a second.
And of course, it's the less functional mods that will end up, I guess, last. I think I definitely want to still stick to that CSL idea of kind of crafting a very simple approach, OEM. Fukuda-san at Sunbeam was telling me that BMW has started remaking the carbon fiber CSL front bumpers. So maybe something like that. And of course, definitely need to do the trunk lid with that kick up, kind of like ducktail integrated into the lid. It's really going to transform the look of the car, especially if it's sitting on a nice set of wheels. And I guess we'll see how we go step by step. Of course, there's going to be lots of things that will change. I'm very much still kind of learning everything there is about the E46, researching what is out there, the amazing products that companies make, and it will go right down into the interior. I really want to refine that as well, give it a little personal touch. The car actually has half cloth, half leather seats, which we'll definitely need to really kind of think about what to do there. I do actually like the cloth in the center, but maybe go for some BMW art car type inspiration. Actually, let's have a look inside because you're gonna understand what I'm talking about. So as you can see, that same pattern with the M colors on the door is what's being used here on the center of the seats. And I actually do like it, except for the fact that it's not really that visible. The lines, the colored kind of strips of color here really come through only through those kind of like square openings. And once you step back, they kind of disappear. So something a little bit more striking. We'll definitely need to think about the door trim. I mean, doing the CSL door card here with the carbon and the aluminum door handle would be the dream, but I already mentioned how much that kind of stuff costs on the first video. But you know, stuff like the main dash trim, which is now currently wrapped in kind of like a carbon look vinyl, definitely will need a rethink. And then we have this horrible kind of sticky plastic here that might get replaced if we do the kind of CSL center console. And then the infotainment. It's a very old navigation system. Definitely might want to figure out what can be done and, you know, have retained the kind of OEM feel of not adding a protruding screen, which we already had here. You can see the mess that's left behind. You need to find a product that can remove that sticky disaster there. And yeah, basically clean it up, do an Alcantara retrim on the steering wheel, kind of like the CSL. And this is something I just spotted. So they had a cable for the navigation coming out of the air vent, and they cut it. They cut it through the ventilation ducts here. So the cable is coming up, looping around, going to the screen here. Oh, so this has to be replaced and fixed up. Everything has to look nice and fresh. Lots to think about. So there you have it. My first real outing in the E46 M3. Really got to know the car, I feel, and I think I'll be doing more of this because you know, these cars, they're a bit unique, and I think the more time you spend with them, you really realize the things that you probably should do and shouldn't do rather than just jumping to conclusions. The SMG, I will allow more time for it to grow on me. It is an interesting solution. It does really well in pretty 80% of the situation I drive the car in. I have noticed that in very tight Tokyo streets, and we have a lot of very slow, tiny back roads here, the clutch slips or gets slipped quite a lot in first and second gear. And I feel that's gonna impact longevity of the actual clutch assembly quite dramatically. So that would be a big plus. If you had a manual, you could actually gauge it a little bit better and be a bit smoother. But that said, so much to come. It's gonna be a long-term project. And I'm just happy to have an E46 on the channel. I'm so happy that there was so much positivity in the comments and people very happy to see that added to the Dino DC list of cars. And we're just gonna have fun with it and enjoy the whole process, fitting each part, really understanding what the effect is, and then just enjoying it and going to the next mod. So it's gonna be a long process, but we're here to enjoy it also. Make sure you check back soon for the next video. There's a lot more coming on the channel. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure you check back soon for more.